3. Well, perhaps it may be said, it is not from books at all that the church means her people to learn. To the people in general, the voice of the church is only the voice of the priest. Ordinary laymen certainly cannot study decrees of popes or councils or works on scientific theology. They must take the doctrine of their church as their authorized teachers expound it to them. Well, are those teachers infallible? Why, no, is the answer. But practically, the people have the full benefit of the gift of infallibility. It is true their priest is not infallible, but they know that if he teaches any heresy, he will be suspended by his bishop. If the bishop neglect his duty, he will be called to account by the archbishop. And if the archbishop be heretical, he will be removed by the pope. But this statement is only partially true. I believe it is true that any attempt to remove errors from the teaching of the Church of Rome is likely to be summarily checked, and therefore that she is greatly debarred from that best kind of reform from within. But I see no equal safeguard against adding to and exaggerating errors she holds already. It is acknowledged that the faith of the Church may be injured by subtraction. It seems to be practically ignored that the faith may also be injured by addition. Anything that seems like a move in the direction of Protestantism is promptly stopped. But the most extravagant statements in the opposite direction, though perhaps privately censured by the discreet, are not interfered with by authority. On all important subjects, the truth is a mean between opposite errors. How then can those teachers possibly have the truth whose only care is to keep as far as they can from one particular form of error? The most prevalent extravagance of Roman teaching at the present day is an exaggeration of the honor due to the Blessed Virgin Mary. She is represented in many sermons and popular books of devotion as almost a fourth person of the Blessed Trinity, and as a share on nearly equal terms with our Lord in the work of our redemption. These extravagances are such as to shock one so little disposed to judge harshly of Roman doctrine as Dr. Pusey, and they formed the main subject of his book, the Irenicon. We ask, is this teaching authorized? And no one can tell us. The infallible guide will not commit himself. It might seem, however, that he has committed himself. One of the most active teachers of these new doctrines is St. Alphonsus Liguori, who was canonized by the late Pope. Liguori's writings have been a mark for Protestant attack not only on account of his Mariolatry, but also on account of his casuistry. For though in his work on moral theology he professes to hold the mean between extreme laity and extreme rigor, his decisions lean so much to the side of what we count laxity as very much to scandalize weak minds. Now, our first impression is that the Pope is fairly responsible for all Liguori's teaching, for before anyone can be canonized as a saint, a most rigorous examination must be made whether his published writings contain anything objectionable. This examination was made in Liguori's case in the year 1803 when he was a candidate for beatification. All his works then came under the examination of the Sacred Congregation of Rites, who decreed that in all the writings of Alphonsus Liguori, severely examined according to the discipline of the Apostolic See, there was found nothing worthy of censure. And there is testimony that this examination was made with particular severity, that his system of morality had been more than 20 times rigorously discussed by the Sacred Congregation, and that in all their decrees the cardinals had agreed. Yet we are told that the infallible authority is no way committed to the doctrines of Liguori. Many respectable Roman Catholics do not hesitate to express their dislike, both of his decisions on some questions of morality and of his language concerning the Virgin Mary. Dr. Newman is among the number of these. While professing his incompetence to judge a saint, seeing that the spiritual man judgeth all things and is himself judged of no man, he gives his opinion that many things may be suitable for Italy which will not go down in England. The saint's practical directions were given for Neapolitans, which he knew and we do not. With respect to the approbation implied in the decree of the Congregation of Rites, he says, Though common sense may determine that the line of prudence and propriety has certainly been passed in the instance of certain statements about the Blessed Virgin, it is often not easy to prove the point legally, and in such cases authority, if it attempt to act, would be in the position which so often happens in our courts of law, where the commission of an offense is morally certain, but the government prosecutor cannot find legal evidence sufficient to ensure conviction. It is wiser to leave these excesses to the gradual operation of public opinion, that is, to the opinion of educated and sober Catholics, and this seems to be the healthiest way of putting them down. Well, I will postpone until I have to speak of saint worship the discussion whether this attempt to release the Church of Rome from the responsibility of approving Liguori's doctrine is successful. My opinion is that it is not. And since Dr. Newman wrote, a new difficulty has arisen in the way of relieving Roman Catholics from the responsibility of Liguori's extravagances. For Pius IX, who was himself a thorough Italian and who did not understand how what is good for Italy should not be good for all the world, elevated Liguori to the rank of Doctor of the Church. That is to say, one of the great divines whose dicta have the highest authority. But for the present purpose, we may accept Dr. Newman's account of the matter. If Dr. Newman misunderstands the teaching of the infallible guide whom he has accepted, it is only a stronger proof of what I am asserting, that the guide has an obstinate objection to speaking plainly. It appears then from Dr. Newman that not only is the stamp of infallibility not put on the teaching of ordinary priests, but not even on that of canonized saints. It appears that there are current among Roman Catholic books of devotion which, in the opinion of many, are superstitious and scandalous, not to say blasphemous and idolatrous, and yet the infallible authority refuses to speak a word in condemnation. Nay, gives what to most persons would seem approbation of the devotions in question.